Your Excellency, you're welcome to the TPPSB. That is the Platform Public Service Boot Camp, the very first one. They are very proud to call themselves TPPSB. They are the first and the best. It is like a follow-up expression of the regular platform program that is powered by Covenant Nation, that focuses on governance and public issues. And this is the next expression of it, to try and groom young people with an interest and skill for public service, so that we can have competent, capable, and prepared people to hand over the baton of leadership on into the next generation. We have a class here of 80 participants, all seated. They were the 80 successful of over almost 3,000 applications. This is the best 80 that we could pull together. I should come to this side. Okay. I obey instructions. Okay, thank you for the direction. So we have our 80 best. They went through 3 stages before we got here. And we picked them up, and they are from every part of Nigeria. It's well spread. It's from the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. Now, this program is in 3 stages. This is the first one, which is a 5-day boot camp. They are in residence in this place, and we are putting them through all the rudiments of public service, introducing them to it. And after they are done with this, after the 5 days, we're going to commence a 6-month virtual series to keep deepening the knowledge. And within those 6 months, we're also going to fix them in internship positions in public sectors for 3 months. So we embed them there to give them both theoretical and practical experience or exposure to public service, with the hope that they would be prepared for any opportunity to get into public service to serve. That's the purpose of and we're very, very honored that you will find time to come and share with us. I am not the one asking the question, because I'm not a member of the cohort. 2 members of the cohort, Daniel and Tejumola, are going to be interacting with you on behalf of their colleagues. They all curated questions together, which they would be sharing. We wish you would have the 2 hours with us, but we know that you have just 1 hour, so we're going to try and make the best of the 1 hour. So Daniel and Tejumola, please. I had told them I was going to introduce you, but if I start a story of introducing you, we will eat into the time. So basically, they'll just go straight to their questions. I've already briefed them on your trajectory in public service. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, sir. Thank you once again on behalf of this cohort for joining us today. We recognize that your time is very valuable, and as a result of that, we're just going to delve straight into the questions for today. We've done a bit of research on you, and we've read a bit about your activism days. With that being said, the first question is, how did you end up in public service, and did you ever think that you would be a public servant?
Well, good evening, and it's really a delight to be here at the Platform Public Service Boot Camp. I have been at platform events on a variety of occasions. I think I was at the May 1st event a few years ago, and at another one subsequently. So Pastor Podri is an inspiration to many of us in public service. So it's really a delight to be here and to see this next stage in the leadership development. That there's nothing to a very early start in understanding governance and service. And then I went on, as you say, you might have read, into student unionism. What you generally call a Luther these days. But it was a much more focused student unionism in my days at the University of Lagos. How many great Akokites are here? That was. We were broadcasting from unknown places, and it was underground, and we were persona non grata. I was declared alongside my colleagues. I'll say it's a pity that this is your ticket. It's a pity that this is your ticket. We want you to come and run. But that's what happened to me. I didn't get into politics on account of ambition. It was all of those things that I did, that I spoke about, that gave me the platform for to say, look, if this involved, and in the course of the first term of President Obasanjo, I was also involved with a range of things. I was the technical advisor for the Oputa Commission, you mean the Human Rights Violations Commission, chaired by the respected jurist, Justice Chukwudi Oputa, basically helping them with the technical side of the work they were doing and fundraising for them. And then served on a number of initiatives for President Obasanjo, the Millennium Development Goals that became known as the Sustainable Development Goals, the New Partnership for Africa Development. I was on the steering committee of that. I was also on the steering committee of the Defense and Security Policy for Nigeria. That's my background, by the way. I didn't say that. I'm an academic. I'm not a politician in that sense. It should not surprise you that you would get to a point where people say, okay, all these things you've been talking about, come and show us how to do it.
Thank you very much, sir, for that answer. Yes, please, you can clap. Thank you so much. In a recent article, your passion for Nigeria is very evident. You wrote an article recently to commemorate the 60th birthday of Professor Odenta on how to make Nigeria work. So my question to you is, what do you believe are the biggest challenges facing our country today, and what steps do you think we need to take to address them?
Well, there are many things in any environment. It's a continuing process. There is no country locks need to recognize a point of engagement in every struggle. Every struggle ends up in a negotiation table. But if you do not plan it from the beginning, and NSAS was leaderless, that's a lesson that I hope will be drawn from those who want to engage and get meaningful results at the end of their engagement. It's okay to form a resistance movement, to even be extremely difficult to manage as a negotiating tool. Sometimes you take an extreme position when you are negotiating so that those at the other side can move closer to that extreme position, and then you shift. You don't remain in that extreme spot and end up getting no results. So I think young leaders need to recognize that they have a power, first and foremost. There's the power of numbers. And when you look at the demography, there's a dividend to that. I always say to young people around me, just this afternoon, one of my mentees who I brought into politics and government was elected as the chairman of the finance commissioners in Nigeria this afternoon, Kayode. And Akin used to be one of these very difficult young men around me in his 20s at the time when I just got into politics. And he would pontificate about things. Okay, come on. He said, no, I don't want to be associated with politicians. And I know a lot of young people say that. because they think politics is dirty, politics is for villains, it's venal, and I don't want to be do. I don't want to touch it. And then we see ourselves in civil society. Maybe because I've traversed these various trajectories, I can talk a little bit more about it. We see ourselves as these angels in civil society in pursuit of utopia that never comes. And yet we remain rigidly on that spot. It goes back to the question of negotiation and engaging government. And governments everywhere in the world, governments are becoming more receptive to engagement because they know they don't have all the ideas. However, we also need to do something about our own leadership recruitment process. I mean, what I spoke about in terms of my trajectory, you could see that there was a pattern to it. Yes, I was a student. I was involved in student union activism. I went into civil society leadership. I ended up in government. There's nothing that says that is going to be an automatic trajectory. I could end up in private sector, also in leadership. But I've learned some lessons in organizing, in engaging people, in getting results, which may not be all of what I would like to get, but a substantial gain from where we started. And I think it's important for young people who want to be involved in any activity, not just public sector governance, to recognize this and to be prepared. One thing I always say is that you cannot go into any of these sectors without preparation. You need to know what you're talking about. So if you know what you're talking about, older people are bound to listen. I mean, I was in my 20s when I ran Radio Kudirat. And I was working with Chief Antonio Enaro, the nationalist leader, Professor Wale Soyinka, the current president, Bola Tinubu. Those are the people I worked with. I was the youngest in that group. But they listened to me because I also knew quite a lot about the environment in which I was operating. And they were receptive to ideas. I don't think older people are impervious if they believe they're listening to a young person who knows what he or she is talking about. They ultimately, even if they want to do that, I'm the wise one. Yes, you may be the wise one, but the energetic one, the one who is daring, the one who can go far and take risks is the younger person. And that has to be converted into an advantage. So I think these are things that are important in negotiating the relationship between the young and the old.
Thank you very much, sir. Every struggle must end at negotiation. That's a very, very key point. And you've been known, even this evening, you've mentioned it, that power is too concentrated at the federal level and needs to be diluted to the state level. So my next question will be regarding subnational. From your past experience as the NGF governor, reflecting on that experience as the governor of governors, how can the forum be better utilized to achieve development at the subnational level?
Well, thank you very much for that. The forum, the Nigerian Governors Forum, is actually it's an association. It's not a constitutional body. It's not written in any constitution that we must have a governors forum. Governors came together in 1999, the very first set of governors, and decided that there are some things that must be done in cooperation and collaboration rather than in competition with one another. And that's what brought them together. And the very first chair of the Governors Forum, Governor Abdullahi Adamu, who ended up being the chairman of APC, it was informal at their stage. It became formalized when Governor Bukola Saraki took over as the chair of Governors Forum. And then it became much more institutionalized when I was chair of the Governors Forum. And the Governors Forum basically does a number of things to strengthen the hands of states particularly in the service of the citizens. So many of the programs that we run, apart from fighting for more funds for states, and that's a perennial struggle between the federal and the state, and also enlightening citizens to know that federal government does not give state government funds, because this is a common thing I hear. Students of political science here will know that in federalism, there are federating units. And federating units are not subordinate to one another. They are coordinate. This is a fundamental principle of federalism. So the federal government and the states belong to the federation, and they do things jointly. So when I read, oh, President Bola Tinubu has given states more money, there is nothing like that. More money has come to the federation account, and there's a sharing formula in the federation account. And what goes to each is already defined in the Constitution. Yes, if you earn more, automatically more will go to both sides. But that's not what the Governors Forum is more well regarded for. It is what we do in the areas of education, in fighting to reduce the number of out-of-school children, for example, is what we do in healthcare. Every month at the Governors Forum, most Nigerians don't know this, and we have experts in all those areas. We have education experts, we have agriculture experts, we have health experts. So every month, we review immunization figures. We review maternal mortality, child mortality, life expectancy, nutrition. We do all that. And then we peer review ourselves. Why is Ekiti doing better in immunization? What are you doing, Governor Ekiti? Can you share with us? Or can we send a delegation from the 35 other states to come to Ekiti and see how you're doing it? Most people don't hear that about the Governors Forum. They don't hear about how we impose conditions on ourselves to ensure that our citizens get more information about financial operations. We had a program when I was chair of the Governors Forum, which is known as SIFTAS. Some may know of what SIFTAS is. And this is the State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability, and Sustainability Program. And what we do in SIFTAS, supported by the World Bank, is to ensure that every state publish their financial accounts and it's available on their website so that you as citizens can go there and check. All procurement figures are there. If they do any contract, who applied for the contract. So if you go to an public procurement website now, you can see how much this particular contract was awarded for, which company won the bid, how did they win the bid, and what is the performance indicators. We also put elements like what the legislature should do. We do a lot on constitutional review alongside the National Assembly that has the power to review. But you know, even when National Assembly have come up with proposals for constitutional reform, the only way it becomes law is when 2/3 of the 36 states have ratified those proposals. So states are very critical to the constitutional review process. And states are also very critical in helping the president, whoever the president is. And that's one thing with the Governors Forum. We are not partisan. There are partisan forums. There is APC Governors Forum, chaired now by Governor Uzodinma. There is PDP Governors Forum, chaired by Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi. But Uzodinma, Mohammed, and the rest of us, they will go to the Nigerian Governors Forum and take collective decisions that they now go into meetings with the president over, just as they did recently on state policing. But that's not just what we do. We also have very strong relationships at the Governors Forum with development partners. So Governors Forum has programs that are funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, by MacArthur Foundation, by UNDP, by the World Bank, by Islamic Development Bank, a whole range of programs. We also help our states to access funding from those multilateral institutions. It has a full-fledged secretariat. It has its own building. We also have the Nigerian Governors' Wives Forum, because we know how important the spouses of our governors, elected governors, are in helping to push certain agenda, particularly around domestic violence. When I was chairman of the Governors Forum, that was when we declared a national emergency on domestic violence. This was during COVID. And at the time, only 14 states in Nigeria had signed up to the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. Today, every single state has signed up to the act. By the time I stepped down as the chair of Governors Forum, 30 states had signed up, and between then, barely about a year ago, 6 additional states have now signed up to it. Of course, you can ask me, there's a difference between enacting a law and enforcing the law. That's true. But you first must have the law in order to be able to enforce it. That's another struggle. And you always have one struggle, but there are many fronts to the single struggle you're fighting. That's also something you need to know. And you can't win all battles at once. You must choose your battle. You must be sequential in your approach. And you must know that there's a longer term view you must take, even if there are short steps, short results that you must attain in the course of that longer battle that you must face. So that's what the Nigerian Governors Forum has been very relevant in doing.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm just going to ask a question based on everything that you just said. That's a very brief overview. I know for a fact that so many of us were not aware of what exactly you covered under that specific association. So the question here is, based on your assessment, what would you say the current state is in terms of federalism? And do you believe that the reforms are there any reforms necessary to strengthen the governance at both the federal and the state levels?
I think it's working now. Yeah. Reforms are always, just as I said, there's no perfect nation in the world. I mean, if you look at even the United States of America that many of us sometimes look up to, you will see them talk about the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, the 20th Amendment. So you always have to improve. For example, the future of work is going to change. The demography is already changing. And the Constitution would have to take that into account in future. Maybe not now, but some countries that are more forward-looking are already looking at how to reflect the implications and impact of AI on the citizens, on privacy, on data protection. Those are issues that are going to come up, whether we like it or not, in the course of the next generation, if not already now. So when you say, are there reforms that we need in the current governance structure? Absolutely. There are those who would argue, for example, and I haven't quite settled on where I stand on it myself, but there are those who would argue that the electoral cycle in our country is misaligned with the effective governance cycle. When you have 4 years as an elected authority, be you president or governor, and you use the first year on litigation in court, moving from the tribunal to the Supreme Court before you even get the chance to do anything for the people who've elected you to office. And you finally succeeded in winning in court. You can now say, okay, what am I going to do for the people? So that's year 2. And if you're really, really committed, if you had a plan, if you had been thinking seriously, not every person who gets elected comes with a plan. And if you have a plan and you're ready to really work and turn around the things, you need to put a team together. A plan without a team amounts to nothing. And when you are putting a team together, you need to figure out how many political IOUs do I have? And how many areas do I need to put competent people who may not be politicians, but can help me deliver on this promise that I've made to the people when I was on the campaign trail? Is it 60-40 or 30-70, technical and political? I mean, your local circumstance would determine that, but that adds to the time you need. Before you select the team and they get ready to deliver, you start looking for resources. 2 years gone. By the time you get to the 3rd year, I have to come back home. Second time. You start campaigning. Meanwhile, you have not delivered. Meanwhile, if you are going to succeed, you need to take tough decisions early. Because tough decisions would always come with a backlash, and we've seen it here in Nigeria. Our president took a decision the very first day on the rostrum when he was at the inauguration. We've seen the backlash from that decision. And now it has affected the lives of ordinary Nigerians. That can carry political costs eventually. So you want to straddle between hurting the citizens and pampering the citizens in order to get a second term. So you don't want to take all the hard decisions, you postpone them. So you could very well use the first 4 years without impact. And there are those who would argue that maybe what we need is a 6-year single term, no second term. Just do your work. You know, you don't have any second term. Like a university vice chancellor. They get 5 years, and whatever you do in that 5 years is what will be your result. But those are the kind of issues we need to debate on. There are those who would say local government autonomy. It's something, it's a fad, it's popular. But what is local government autonomy? Is there anything so-called? Because in federal systems, what you have is a 2-tier federal structure. And what is then applicable is that in most federal structure, whether you look at it in Canada or United States or Australia, any federal structure, the local government system is subsumed within the states. And it is the states that determine whether they need 200 counties or local authorities, whatever they call it, and then fund it accordingly. Our system is a misnomer. Our local governments are even listed in the Nigerian Constitution. It's never done anywhere. So these are issues that I think we will need to tease out. And we also need to look at the powers. Say, for example, the presidency. We need to look at the question of multi-level policing. I don't call it state police because sometimes when you say state police, people think you want to abrogate the federal police. No. Having a state police or a county police does not necessarily negate a federal police because there are federal crimes. And federal crimes would always be there. And you will need a police to attend to these federal crimes. That's why they have the FBI dealing with federal crimes. But you also have every NYPD, LAPD, this one PD in each state dealing with crimes that are local to the states. So we need to decide what we want to do with that. some Nigerians will tell you, oh, you know, if you have state police, governors are going to appropriate it and they're going to use it against their opponents and attack their anybody who they don't like. That may be true, but the reality is, when you can anticipate a problem, then you can also find a solution to the problem. So you can have an authority that would be the mediating authority for such state policing system. Just as you have the National Judicial Council in our constitution that monitors even state judges. Not just federal judges in federal high court, but state court judges. You can also have a body like that that would look into infractions committed at the state level, not just the federal level. Because the federal police can be misused too, and they are often misused. So it's not limited to any particular way, but let us have a vehicle that can hold them accountable so that the citizens' rights are not abridged in the course of whatever service they are rendering. So I think there are several things that the Constitution can look at. And I mean, I've been involved in the Constitution struggle since my days in the Center for Democracy and Development when we started the Citizens Forum for Constitutional Reform. And I still believe that there's a lot we can do on the Constitution.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Staying on the subject of tenure system that you just mentioned, in the boot camp this afternoon, we had a session that spoke about succession as a key ingredient, and you are complaining or you're making the argument for continuity of the development cycle. I'll ask a question on succession now. When it comes to the political arena, what do you think can be done, or what did you do to ensure that those coming after you do not spoil the good work you've started, and there's continuity to ensure that people are, impacted in the community?
I'm actually a good person to talk to about that because I've experienced both sides. The people from Ekiti here will know what I'm talking about. I was in office for first time, and I got thrown out of office, and a lot of the work I did just stalled because my successor did not find any reason to continue the work. You know, there's a mentality in Nigeria that if you continue another person's work, the credit will still go to that person, not to you, which is nonsense, really. Where I come from in Yoruba land, they will tell you that and it's the person who started the work is not really the one who will get the credit. It's the person who completes the work that gets the credit. But we don't see it like that in politics, I must say. And I think it's unfortunate. What I did in Ekiti when I came back was to enact the very first transition law in Nigeria. So we have a transition law in Ekiti State, which is very clear. I hope in the course of your boot camp, maybe I'll get Ms. Salako Ajilo to get you a copy of our transition law. And what it does is really to smoothen the transition between a departing government and a succeeding administration, and ensuring that no project is abandoned once it's been embarked on. And this is now enshrined into law in Ekiti. And that for me is partly the lesson I learned from leaving government, having many of the things I did abandoned. And when I came back, I had to spend close to 18 months completing projects that ought to have been done while I was in office, because my successor just did not touch any of them. But I was lucky. I came back. Some never had the opportunity of returning, and those projects, and that's why you have across the length and breadth of Nigeria, thousands of abandoned projects. And not just at the executive level, it also happens at the legislative level where they have constituency projects. So somebody will start constituency project, it will get thrown out after 4 years. The person who takes over from that person does not see any reason to continue. So one is the law. But the second is also to try as much as possible to make sure that you groom successors, possible successors, in your own political party. Yes, there are those who will deprecatingly refer to this as godfatherism or things like that. But if you really have the love of your people at heart, you want to make sure that success without succession really amounts to failure. Because at the end of the day, if you have put some things in place that require sustainability over the long term, you obviously need whoever is coming into office to at least share a modicum of commitment to that sustainability. For example, we have policies. I talked about fiscal projects that were abandoned. When I left Ekiti, because my successor did not believe in running, for example, the free education or free health program that we ran, paying WAEC fees and all that, a lot of kids dropped out of school after I left because their parents could not afford to pay. And Ekiti, that used to rank among the lowest in out-of-school children, just went up. And I had to struggle to bring Ekiti back to the state with the lowest out-of-school children in Nigeria, which we eventually achieved when I was leaving in 2021, 2022. So it's not just about fiscal projects, it's also about policies that have a bearing on the lives of the citizens. And in my own case, I groomed a lot of potential successors, and I was fortunate that my secretary to the state government, who was part of everything, he was my commissioner during my first term, and then he became my secretary to the state government during my second term, and he's now the governor of the state. So he's fully aware of everything that we did. He doesn't need any tutorial on where the government has come from. He was able to hit the ground running because he knew all of the issues that we were dealing with. And he just continued. And he has not introduced any new policies, just carried on with the policies. Even the fiscal projects that we were not able to complete, he is working hard to complete them. So maybe we're lucky, but you can put in place a plan to ensure that I hope we'll get to the point where government policies will not be tied to particular presidencies or governors and parties, or if there's a good policy, it should transcend parties. And that's what happens in other plans. I mean, President Bush Jr., George Bush introduced PEPFAR. Those who are in the health sector will know what PEPFAR is here, which worked on HIV/AIDS reduction. But every American president after Bush has retained PEPFAR. In fact, it's one of the most successful programs they have in Africa. Same thing, AGOA, the Growth and Opportunity Act, which offers duty-free export to African countries. President Clinton did that. But every single president, including Trump, by the way, retained it. And it continued. It's just due for renewal now. So basically, I think we need to be able to build institutions, not just personalities. And it's only when we build institutions that policies can transcend personalities.
Thank you very much, sir. That's a very wise statement. We need to wrap up, so we'll ask 3 questions very quickly and then we'll close it for today. Let me ask one question and then hand over to my co-host. If you could redo it all over again, what would you do differently?
Well, you keep learning and you keep correcting along the line. You know, when I came into partisan politics, I came in as an activist. So I didn't quite see things the way, shall I call them professional politicians, see and do things. And I believe that there are those who claim that I suffered for it. Because my first time in Ekiti, a lot of people used to find me too intellectual and bookish. As a politician, they felt that, look, you will not find me on the roadside eating corn or going to Mama Put or doing the usual things politicians do. And by the time I finished that time, I was running for second term, the popular refrain, and I was contesting against a populist, a people-pleasing politician who may know the right thing, but know what people want to hear, not what would be beneficial to them in the long term. And that's where the coinage, stomach infrastructure, came into Nigerian politics. That was my election, because I was accused of tarring roads and doing physical infrastructure, but what about the stomach of the politician? I don't agree that that's correct, and I don't believe that our citizens should be patronized that way. However, I think there is something to be said for a balancing act. Reaching out to people, because at the end of the day, no matter how hardworking and good you are, there's a sense in which people want to touch and feel their political leaders. And I'm sure you see, as youngsters, you know that. If I am here now, and I can engage you on Mobad and Whiskey and Ira Star and all of these popular creative artists, you look at me and say, you say, I mean, you're not looking at my policies yet, you're just looking at me and hearing me and say, okay, it's okay, I think he can understand us, he gets it. I'm sure you get what I'm saying. So there is that, and I think every politician should aim to do that, but not at the expense of working hard for the people. I think that's really the lesson that I learned. So when I came back, I did a lot of the jiggery pokery dancing around with people in order to win the election and earn the trust of the grassroots, as we call it in politics. But I didn't leave my my well-known attitude to serve the people.
Very well said. Thank you very, very much, sir. So over the past couple of days, we've had many people who have taken time out of their busy schedules to talk to us. And one of the reoccurring themes that we've heard have been around mindset and character, just as you mentioned, at the beginning of this conversation. With that being said, what advice would you have for this cohorts? What advice would you have for us in terms of mindset towards being a public servant?
Well, the very first thing I would like to commend this cohort for is that I like the structure I've had, and I hope it works out the way it's been planned. The structure of your boot camp, and then your 6 months virtual training, and then your attachment to public sector institution. That's really very good. So you will learn on the ground. You would understand the issues in a broader way. What advice would I have for you? I said courage is important. And there is no mountain too high for you to climb. You can only be your own limit. However, in climbing, don't always expect immediate gratification. Delayed gratification is the key. It wouldn't always be delayed, and there are forms of gratification that will come immediately. When I was doing all this, my underground radio, I wasn't earning any money, and it was a very risky business. I was traveling through Nigeria, even though I was a persona non grata to Benin Republic, to all the countries around here, organizing, meeting people who come from Nigeria. It was a sacrifice. And leadership is hard work. I think people need to know that. Leadership is not the convoy you see. It's not the title. It's not the honorific, your excellency, all those rubbish. People call you excellency, but they hate your guts. They say it because they have to say it. They come to your office, I have to be prim and proper, your excellency. After you, there is you. There's no... You know, it's all crap. But if you allow it to get into your head and you begin to believe what they're saying, you will miss the road completely. You will not focus on the work. So the sky is not even the limit. Things are advancing so fast now that leadership is sacrifice, but leadership is also service. And leadership is hard work. You've got to prepare for it. And you can only prepare for it if you don't see it in terms of, what is in it for me? Oh? Politician is coming. How much are you going to sell your vote? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And I believe that our youth really represent the best opportunity for us to transform this society. Some of us have lost our way, the older generation. As Professor Wole Soyinka will call it, the wasted generation. If theirs was the wasted generation, maybe ours is the wasting generation. But you don't want to come into that space. I know the easiest route now is Japa. I spoke about this when I came to Platform 2 years ago. I mean, I can't remember now, maybe 4 years ago. And many of you were not very happy with me when I said, hey, guys, you can Japa if you like. Me, I lived outside the country for 15 years. And I came back. So, frankly, it's not an either or, if that's what you see as your way out. But as I recall telling those who were at Platform that year, even outside, you get to what is known as a glass ceiling. After all of your accomplishments, and you just say, look, hang on a minute, okay, I want to go back. But it may be too difficult for you to come back then because other intervening variables have come in. Children are there, mortgage is there, and people in the abroad, as they say, they live from hand to mouth, from one credit card payment to the next credit card payment. So to now have the latitude to say you want to just hop and go back may be difficult. But the world is also changing. We will soon begin to redefine where home is. Very, very soon. Because when you look at the figures, the median age in Africa is 19. The median age in America is 38. In China is 38. In India is 28. The population is aging. In Italy, they're begging people to have children now because they have nobody who's going to replace their working population. The working population of the world, half of it will come from Africa by 2050. What does these statistics mean to you, to me, to all of us? In terms of putting in place functional education, appropriate skills that would be sellable to the world, and what can the Nigerian state do to put a structure in place to support even those who want to japa in order to make money from them so that they can benefit the society collectively. Now they're returning remittances 23 billion. In India, remittances is $140 billion. In Philippines, in Bangladesh, where they have many of their people out. I'm not promoting Jaffa, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that if this is what is happening, this is what some of our citizens are doing, how do we help them achieve their objectives and still retain that national spirit, that patriotic spirit to want to give back to their country? So regardless of where you are, home, in the virtual world, in the age of AI, maybe anywhere, as long as your heart is there and your support of the family is there. So for me, I think delayed gratification is important. Values are very, very critical. You have to ask yourself, why am I doing what I am doing? What benefit is it to society? And how can I always make a difference in the lives of the people that I'm serving? And it need not be in politics. It could be in your neighborhood association. It could be in your Esusu microfinance body, or whatever catches your fancy. Leadership is not just something meant for politics. Leadership is in every segment of life. And you are all leaders. In fact, the fact that you have managed to scale through the screening process that got you here certainly shows that you have leadership qualities. And that all that needs to be done is to just hone those skills, develop them, and ensure that you are prepared for the world out there. It's tough out there, but it's only the tough people that can survive in a tough environment, and I believe that you're tough. You're going to succeed. Congratulations.
Your Excellency, sir. Your Excellency, sir. When we say that in a respectful way. We want to...
She knows that I don't answer to Your Excellency, and so she was taunting me.
We want to thank you.
In office, I don't do Your Excellency.
We want to thank you so much for this opportunity and your time you've shared with us. And I'm sure I speak for the fellows when I say, just as you've told us that Nigeria is an unfinished business, we are committing to play a role in making sure that we have a better country. Thank you very much, sir. Can you please appreciate it?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fayemi. Yes, I already told them that you don't stand to the gallery on all these things, but the cohorts have something that they would like to give to you.
His Excellency, sir. On behalf of the first and the best cohort of the Platform Public Service Bootcamp, we really want to say thank you for your time, finding time out of your busy schedule to be here and sharing with us from your rich wealth of experience. We promise to put in practice all that we've learned from you. Thank you very much, sir. We have this very little token to give to you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'll just see Dr. Fayemi out.
How was that session? Yeah. So we have some time before we let you go today. And you just, so So we have some time before we let you go today. So we'll do a debate. We'll just sort of try to debate any issue. So if you have any question that you have, or not even a question, any issue that you feel very passionate about, so you will come to make your point, and I'd like somebody in the audience to debate the issues with you. No, you've raised your hand, so it's too late to...
Oh my God, wow.
Yeah. Okay, so just ask your question.
Okay, so I actually have 2 questions, and I was looking forward to the session Sharon said we would have with you and Mrs. Shola. So the first question was on, and I think I was discussing this with someone earlier today. First of all, apart from the Dr. Kayode that we just had, I feel like every other, and I know that this is just day 2, right? But every other political person that has come in was an appointee, not an elected official, right? And even the appointees, there were people who were at the top of their private career before they went into public service. And in a way, we can all see how that shapes their efficiency in terms of the experience that they have and the position that they took on. So they were not starting from the bottom. They were in a place of a lot of authority. And for me, it was like, okay, we'll take your personal business seriously, right? So that when the time comes,